$1.5 trillion wiped out of the stock market yesterday. We got a lot to talk about. One, talk about the Black Monday. We kind of called it, but not really here for that. We're here to talk about some levels, stocks to look at, and basically plays to make and some news that you guys need to see. So first off, the SPY. Honestly, we did get a little bit of a recoup, kind of what we had pre-market last week, basically, or ending of the week. Basically, we had pre-market basically yesterday. So we're kind of getting back up there. But keep in mind that we can still sell off. So we do have levels to reach all the way down, back down to the lows of 508 to 509. And then we do got levels to fill upwards all the way up to that 530 level to that 540. But keep in mind that one key level to look at first is that 520 level. This can really make or break the levels. 519.35 is going to be first. We did bounce off it a little bit. This is an old level that I had, but it kind of worked today too. So look at that 519.35. If we can break above that, we watch 520. If we break above 520, look at 522.5, 523.5, 526.5, and that 530 level to the upside. But that's only if we get upside momentum. It's a lot of volume. Just honestly, just be very, very patient. Wait at least 5 to 10 to 15 and even 30 minutes before you make your first play, just to see where we are heading, basically. But if we do go back down to the downside, I will look at that 517. That 5 is 16.5, 515, 513.8, that 512.8, and then the lows of 508.5 to the downside. I don't know if we're going to make new lows, but if we do have high selling pressure and sellers are basically in, the bears are taking over, do look at new lows for SPY. But some plays that you guys can make, just wait a little bit. You can maybe even play to the upside if we do go up, and then just watch these levels. If we fail to break one of these levels, you can get out of your trade there and then work your way to the downside. Of course, we might have one of those days where we work our way up and then come back down. But let's zoom out a little bit, show you guys a little example of where we kind of are right now, but just a little example that I had. So if you can see how today moved, we did have a little bit of a gap back upwards pre-market, and then coming to basically like this is what I'm kind of looking at right here, right? So we are kind of low, but we did kind of build up just a little bit. We are kind of low, but then we had a little jump upwards, and then you could kind of see the market. We kind of bounced up last second, started selling off, and then bounced off of that 540, and then came back up, but then also didn't really bounce past the highs. So we kind of bounced back down, basically showing that the bears were winning this day. So we might get kind of the same thing happening. We might have a little bit of a green upward trend and then might have a sell off upon open, might have a little bit of a retest and then go back upwards and then fail break and then sell like fully, basically. And then you might have a little bit of rebound towards the end of the day. But honestly, just be very, very patient. Stocks aren't going to move the same as it did in the past. That was just a little bit of an example. We can probably see the same thing happening. A little bit of green at first, maybe even have green while market opens. Maybe get up to that 519 to that 520, and then you see that doesn't break, and then we start bouncing lower. And or honestly, if we get great news somehow, just last second, we can see it bounce above that 520 and maybe even 522.5, just depending on the news, of course. So be very, very cautious with SPY. Another one to look at is gold. We did hit highs of 3,500 or almost breaking 3,500 yesterday. And today we did break some highs upon the Chinese markets opening. So keep that in mind. But gold is a decent stock to look at, or not a stock, but if you guys are into futures or anything like that, gold. And you can look at GLD, stuff like that. Just look at other stocks, but there's a bunch of things you can really trade. But GLD is one of the biggest ones, and you have options for this one. So if you want to make some decent plays, you can make a long-term call option. And or if you see stocks going back up, gold selling, you make a put option real quick. But sometimes you might get into like a little bit of a sell-off, but we've kind of just been bouncing up the past couple of days in a constant upward trend. So look at GLD and gold just to the upside. This is a great play to make, especially to the upside. But just look at how the overall market is looking and where everybody is going. But most people are putting their money into gold right now, so that's really going to bring it up. For the weekly, for the heat map, we're still red. Apple was finally down last week. It was green for most of the week. We did have some decent news with Apple, but now Apple is kind of selling off. But yeah, so let's get into some news. We'll get to the heat map first. So basically, after a sharp decline on Monday, U.S. stock futures showed modest gains early Tuesday, with the SPY 500 or S&P 500, sorry, Dow Jones, Nasdaq, each rising at around 0.8 to 0.9%. However, these gains only offset the previous day's losses. We did lose a bunch yesterday. Keep that in mind. So key developments, trade policies. President Trump has announced sweeping tariffs, including 245% tariff on Chinese imports, additional tariffs on Canada and Mexico. These measures have led to retaliatory tariffs from affected countries. So basically making the markets uncertain. So Federal Reserve tensions, everybody knows basically the beef between President Trump and Jerome, basically calling for interest rates and basically questioning his leadership. So keep that in mind because people are kind of scared of Jerome getting fired. I have a video of this. You guys watched it, so some love on it. I appreciate that. But basically, you guys can watch that if you want more details. But basically, if Jerome gets fired, it's going to show uncertainty, or not uncertainty, but basically that the Federal Reserve isn't really independent, and now it's going to be more political base to say. So that can bring the stock market down. People are kind of saying that the stock market can go down like almost 25% if this happens. I don't believe that, but I mean, we see the markets now. It's going to probably drop even more. So some sectors, so technology companies like Apple and Nvidia are under pressure due to supply chain concerns with the trade disputes. Basically, Apple has a big, like most of their iPhones is made in China, and then for Nvidia, we did get that chip, like basically chip ban in China. Nothing really they can do right now. So yeah, energy sector faces challenges from both failing crude oil prices or falling crude oil prices, sorry, and risk associated with the trade wars. So with crude oil prices going down, energy sector is going down too. Just keep that in mind. So some stocks to watch. First Solar. So FSLR. They surged 7.2% following the finalization of stricter solar tariffs. Tesla shares remain volatile ahead of its earnings report. Keep in mind that their earnings is today after stock market close. You see it go up or down. People are saying that it might go bearish just because of like all of the sales and stuff like that. But with the new Model Y, I think it might be a little bit better. So let's talk about some other levels. So we already went through the SPY, Webull. Somebody asked me about Webull before. It was trading like upwards of like what $60, and now it's falling. I do think that it's going to keep on falling, maybe even until the 15 to the $10 level. Just keep GameStop on your mind and on your radar, like not on your mind and on your radar, but keep GameStop on your mind because GameStop kind of did the same thing, but they kind of did it within a few days. But I kind of see it, bouncing all the way up to like that highs of like $80 to $60 and then bouncing back down to like normal, kind of just consolidating. So you could probably see it at around these levels first, at 35 to that 26, and just these two levels right here, kind of balancing. And then to the lows, I think I'll watch 20 to that $10 level, maybe bouncing between that. But a lot of people are just selling off of it. I think people are just really, really hyped to see the stock bounce up. And then especially on this day, people were buying a bunch, but then selling even more. So that's why you see it like bouncing up a lot and then just selling off because people are noticing, oh my God, I'm losing a lot of money. Let me get out now. And shouting out to the people that lost money, sorry for you guys, but yeah, don't get FOMO with trades. So next we're going to talk about Apple. So if you see it back down to the downside, there's some gaps to fill downwards. First one is that 193.5. Next one is that 192.5. And then look at the lows of that 190. Break below this, look at 195 to that 190 level. Back up to the upside, I will be looking at that 196 level, 197, 199, 200 is going to be key. So keep that on your mind too. 202, 203.5, 206.5 to the upside for Apple, Apple, sorry. Next is NVIDIA. So I will be looking at that $100 level to see what happens. We can either go up to it and then break down and or break past it and then maybe get 102 to 103. So keep 100 on your mind and on your radar. We might get 100, then start bouncing down lower. But if we do bounce down lower, look at 97.5, 96, 95, and that $90 level for NVIDIA. If we get lower than $90, I do recommend having maybe a two week to a month call because you can definitely make some money off of that unless we just have like overall uncertainty. So Palantir, we did have a big jump at market open yesterday. I don't think we'll have that, but we did have a $30 million deal over the weekend, or I think on Friday, but over the weekend I heard about it. So keep that in mind because that's probably why it went up. But to say I will be looking at that 93.7, 95, and the highs from yesterday, 96.48. After that, look at that $100 level on Palantir. It's kind of crazy. Palantir is trading almost as much as NVIDIA. Of course, the market caps are different, but it's just insane that they're kind of priced the same. So to the downside, I'll be looking at 91.8, 90.5, that $90 level, and then that 80.5 to the downside, and then 88, 86, and then 85. Tesla, we're probably going to see it move a little bit more today. Did have a big sell off yesterday and then kind of just consolidated a little bit to the upside. Look at 232, 235, 238, and that 240. And then to the downside, 226, 224, 220, and then all the way down to that 217 level to the downside for Tesla. Next one is Bitcoin. We're holding up pretty strong, moving a little bit, honestly moving a decent amount. Some stocks to look at. I don't really open up this charts. I just tell you guys about it. But IBIT, you can play some decent option plays. I had a long-term call option, and I'm planning on selling it today. Honestly, I'm not saying that Bitcoin is going to sell, but it's up like $3,000 right now. I just bought a bunch of them, but you can play options on IBIT. I played it like all the way down to like the $45 level, and now we're all the way up to that 50. So might as well just sell it now. With that being said, to the upside, 51.5, 52.5, and that 54. I think 57 is that $100,000 level, so keep that in mind. To the downside, 49.5, 48.5, and 47.5. But it does move pretty slow, so it's probably going to move today, maybe to that 51, to that 51.50. We do see some constant upward trend, basically. For Bitcoin, I honestly think we might be able to get to that $89,000 level, make some new highs for like recent times, and then maybe even test that 90,000 in the future of this week. To the downside, 88.5, 88, and then all the way down to the 87.5, and then maybe even around this range, yeah, 86.5. MSTR is a good one to look at with Bitcoin, but honestly, compare it with both Bitcoin and the SPY. Kind of just have both charts up while you trade this one because it kind of moves with both. But to the upside, look at that 330 level, 335 and 340. To the downside, 323, 320, 317.2, 313.7, and 310. But with that being said, thanks for watching the video. Smash the like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.